Hey everyone, welcome back to All About April. Today's episode is going to be a special one because I am going to be focused on Nonfiction November. As a reader, many people look forward to this month because it gives them the opportunity to delve and read books that they typically do not read. And that's where I come in. I'm going to be sharing some books that, number one, I plan on reading, books that I have on my bookshelves, and also books that I think that you should pay a little bit closer attention to for your future reading. So without further ado, let's go on ahead and start off with book number one. That's going to be Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by Dr. Joy DeGroy. And I will tell you, I've had this book for quite a bit. I've mentioned this on my TikTok, and I just wasn't ready to read it. And I now am. I've started it. I've begun to tab it. And some of the things that she's talking about, it's extremely relatable. She talked about how we complement each other, or we fail to complement each other, and that is a result of slavery. A lot of parents did not compliment their children because they felt like if they did, their children would be taken away from them. So the criticism part, it hit me very, very deeply in reading that. So cannot wait to dive into this book more. Definitely something that you should be checking out. It's only about 200 pages. Book number two, They Were Her Property by Stephanie E. Jones Rogers, White Women as Slave Owners in the American South. I actually read this during COVID, and this book has sat with me for years, okay? And not just the book in general, it was literally the last paragraph in the epilogue. As you can see, your girl, listen, all underlined and starred up. So with the recent election, for some people, if this is something that you have wondered exactly why some people vote the way that they do, this book fully explains it. They were not just people who were passerbys. They literally participated. They were co-conspirators. And I love the way that she gave many, many examples of how these women were they owned enslaved people, and in many cases the laws protected them to be able to do so. So definitely a read that I would highly suggest, not just for the past but also in relation to the present. Book number three is going to be The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein, A Forgotten History of How Our Government Segregated America. And I think it's really, really important for us to be able to hop into this because a lot of people really forget about segregation. And I always remind my students, it's not that long ago. Like, it really was not that long ago. So Plessy versus Ferguson was in 1896. And Brown versus the Board of Education, which overturned Plessy versus Ferguson, Brown versus the Board of Education made it to where, we all could go to school together and desegregated the country, was in 1954. So yes, we're not far removed from a lot of these things. And so having this, breaking this down, and even it's highly recommended by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Going ahead, grab this, have this on your bookshelf, and educate yourself on things that are relative, once again, not just to the past, but will give you and enlighten you to the present. All right. Also, since I mentioned Ta-Nehisi Coates, I have to bring his book, Between the World and Me. Last night, I was actually talking to one of my friends, and he was like, have you read it? And I'm like, I own the book on Kindle and paperback, and I have not read it. And he's like, April, the book is not long. So I was like, let me pull that out so that I can go ahead, grab it, and read it. And once again, this book is not long at all. The back, it actually has a quote recommended, highly recommended by the late Toni Morrison. So definitely something to think about. But in this book, I want to read to you exactly what he says on the back. What is it like to inhabit a Black body and find a way to live within it? And how can America reckon with its fraught racial history? So this book, where he's talking about Between the World and Me, this is something that he's writing to his son. And it's also a reckoning that he comes across as he is living his life. And this narrative is so significant as he has this awakening within his own life. And Ta-Nehisi Coates is just such a significant figure within Black America, not just for his writing, but for his eloquent speaking skills, for the way that he is able to convey a message for people who just don't get it. So yes, I highly recommend this for you as well. Next up is going to be Morningside. Now, thank you, Amistad Books, for delivering this to me. It's the 1979 Greensboro Massacre and the Struggle for an American City Soul by Aaron Shetterly. Now, tell me why I'm just finding out that the Greensboro Massacre happened in around 1979. I was born about 5 years later, and this massacre consisted of some neo-Nazis and KKK people just going and shooting up an open area where Black people were, that ultimately led to 5 of them being killed. Not only were they killed, but these people were, they were acquitted. They were found not guilty. So this book actually goes through what exactly happens after they are acquitted and the measures that they take to try to get to a place of healing in a country that does not really think about the ramifications of people who cause harm to others for no reason other than their racial makeup. So yes, definitely want to check this one out. And then finally, I had to bring this out, The Burning, The Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921 by Tim Madigan. Yes, I own 2 copies. I forgot that I bought this book, so now I own 2 of them. I mean, it's worth it, right? Now, last night was election night, and it was also significant because Tulsa elected their first Black mayor. And I think that that is so important because it's been 103 years since this race massacre has occurred. And we know that there's an ongoing case where some of the women, they have been fighting for their rights. But I literally do not know enough about the Tulsa Race Massacre. And I know that a lot of the evidence and the history of it has been suppressed. So it is my mission and my goal to learn a little bit more about this so that I am educated about my history and that I can relate to or just have a full understanding of exactly what happened during that time period. Now, I'm sure y'all are like, okay, so all of her books are a little bit heavy. They are. But these are the books that honestly spoke to me. And with reading, I think it's important for us to honor the spaces where we are in. And if books speak to us and they tell us that it's time to read them, that's just what we need to do. And so that's why I pulled those out, not just for me, but also for you to educate yourselves, to learn a little bit more about these different eras of history of United States history so that we can learn, connect, build appropriate communities, and also heal. So let me know if you have heard of any of these books, if you've read any of these books, if you plan on buying any of these books. I am all ears for all of that. With that being said, thank you for tuning in. I am so happy that I was able to share these books with you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I am so happy that I was able to share these with you because y'all know, as a historian, that is my passion, and it is my goal and my mission to always educate you on what's out there. So thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye, y'all.